to briefly say good morning, good afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. We are now starting with the next Open Education Week webinar called Europeana4Education, where Nicole McNeely from Europeana will do a presentation, and then there will be an opportunity to ask questions afterwards. Nicole, over to you. Enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Igor. Thank you very much. So thank you very much to everyone for joining, again, from wherever in the world you are. It would be really great if through the chat you could share who you are and where you are coming from. And again, we look forward to talking to you if you have any questions at the end as well. A huge thanks to Open Education Week, to Igor, for setting this up and for this incredible initiative that we can take part in. It really does, these opportunities are hard to come by, but absolutely invaluable. And so just to introduce myself, my name is Nicole. I work in Europeana in what we call the reuse team. So our team is dedicated to taking our content and promoting it to communities who can do something with it. In the most part, this is around the creative industries and education. Education in 2017 is our primary reuse market. We really want to push the use of this incredible cultural heritage content to learners and to educators and to developers of educational resources across Europe and of course across the world as well. But first we have to tell you a little bit about well, first of all, why we're here. So at the end of this webinar, we really want you to know more about what Europeana is and the content that we have and why we think it has educational value. We want to tell you a bit about the tools that we can provide to help you access our content, and this includes a manual download option as well as Europeana APIs. And we're just going to quickly introduce you to the financial support and opportunities that Europeana offers to help in the development of educational resources featuring our content. And again, please feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar using the chat function, and we'll address them at the end. I've just hidden the screen at the moment. So why are we here? Well, we want to help you enrich educational resources and to inspire learners with Europeana's free to access content. And just to take this apart a little bit, so we want to enrich educational content. Our content is not arranged into lesson plans or tagged according to grades or subjects, but we are a rich cultural heritage and open educational repository. Our content can provide value as a supplementary material to textbooks and digital courses. It's what we call travel well content. It travels across borders and across languages as well. We'll come to that later. And it responds to important content across different national curricula. For example, key events in world history or politics. And we want to inspire learners. Our content is inspirational. We have some, as you can see, this Art Nouveau picture in front of you, but we also want to inspire educators. This is incredible content that educators may not have access to. Some of our collections, for example, our World War I collection, contains stories that can't be found anywhere else. So these are stories collected from the public. It's their history of their experiences, their families' experiences during World War I. And our free to access content. Yes, our content is free to access. We are funded by the European Commission to bring together Europe's cultural heritage so it can be used and enjoyed by Europe and by users across the world. So what is Europeana? So for those of you who don't know, we are Europe's platform for digital cultural heritage, as I mentioned, funded by the European Commission. So we were launched in 2008 or 2007 with our mission to transform the world with culture. And how do we do that? Well, we do that by collecting this incredible content. So at the moment, we have 54 million plus items of digitized cultural heritage. This is drawn from around 3,500 galleries, museums, archives, and libraries, and other providers from across Europe. Around 20 million of our records of 20 million items on our platform have licenses allowing them to be used in education. We also have curated exhibitions, and our exhibitions harness the expertise of our partners. So, for example, you can find content on Greek gods and find content from across Europe that respond to this theme. Our themed collections bring together the most valuable content that we have. At the moment, we have 3 themed collections on art, music, and fashion. And soon this will include our World War I collection, Europeana 1914, 1918, newspapers, and photography. We've also launched seasons. Our first example is the recent Art Nouveau season, featuring around 50 new artworks from around 20 institutions. And we've also developed a nice Art Nouveau colouring book. And of course, our content is multilingual. It's currently available in 22 languages, and our exhibitions feature 12 languages as well. So we have content that's there, and we also do aspects of curation. And importantly, we give you the tools to access and use this content. We'll introduce this in more detail later, but this includes our manual search and download with filters to help you find what you need, and our 4 free-to-use Europeana APIs. So again, what is Europeana? If you search Europeana, you will come to this platform. This is where everything happens. This is where you can explore our 54 million items. You can see very predominantly in the middle of the screen is our search function. And also at the bottom, you can see the highlights of our best content. This is where we highlight the best content for our users. You can see featured exhibitions, apps and websites, blogs, and anything else we think is important for our users. And we regularly update this. We have a team who do this and who work with our partners to bring together the best content for you. And so when you use the search, sorry, the background images change a lot, but the core of the search is the same. So in the middle of our platform, we have the search box. So you can also browse Europeana. You don't have to necessarily come to search for something in particular. So we have along the top our drop-down menus of collections, explore, and exhibitions. So first you can browse our thematic collections, which I mentioned earlier, currently art, fashion, and music, and this is growing. Second, you can see an explore function. This gives you another search mechanism. You can search by color, time period, topic, person, and the providing institution. And you can also access our exhibitions, our curated exhibitions, and our blog. So hopefully you know a little bit more about what our content includes and how you can browse through our thematic collections and exhibitions. But it's really important that we tell you about how you can search for the content you need as well. So on our homepage, we have a search function, which I hopefully have shown you a few times now, which provides access to all of our content. You can start your search by entering a keyword. In this example, I've used horses in the box in the middle. And this will generate, this will pull up every result that contains or is relevant to the term horses. You can choose to see this content in a grid or a list format, and you can change the number of items you see on one page. You can see those options just on the bottom right-hand side of the graphic there. So the grid or list options, and you can have up to 96 images per viewing. So when you search for horses, this is what you'll come up with. So all items will bring up 55,000 records. You'll see a filter on the left-hand side. And so this is an important way to narrow down the results that you have here to help you find the type of content you're looking for. So our filters is quite advanced. So you can refine your search by collection, as I've mentioned, art, fashion, music. The type of media, so text, image, sound, video, 3D. And there's also a small tip. If you select only items with links to media, it brings up content which can be downloaded directly from Europeana. And I'll talk about this later, but can I use it? Find out about the item's license and how you can use it. You can search by providing country where the institution comes from. For example, if you need content from Slovakia. Language, what language would you like this content to be shown in, or to what language would you like to filter by? And institution, in case you only want content from a certain provider. For example, in the Netherlands, we have a large collection from the Rijksmuseum. We could also take something from the UK, from the British Library. But as I mentioned, it's important to find the content that you can use and that you can use legally, for example, in your classroom or your educational resource. And we're pretty pleased that we make it very easy to find the content that you need. So using the drop-down box, which I showed you just here, so this can I use it? It expands to show you a lot of options. So it gives you free reuse, limited reuse, and no reuse. And I hope that's quite clear, but also if you need more information, you can see under free use, for example, free reuse, you can see the types of licenses which allow free reuse of content. So for and for educational purposes, many of you probably know this, but we recommend that you take free to reuse content. So this is that with public domain mark, with CC0, CC BY, or CC BY SA. You can also take CC BY, non-commercial Creative Commons licenses, allowing non-commercial use and no derivative use, but you have to make sure that you are using the content in the way that it's licensed for. On each record, we have a rights statement. On 100% of our records, we have a rights statement. And as you search, you can also find a detailed explanation of what this means. So if you're not sure, you can have a look at the link, and the link will tell you how you can use the item. But we do recommend using the search and showing free reuse. That means you can, whatever you find, you can take and use. So using Europeana content. So if you look, this is what it looks like. So you search for a bulldog, for example, and you find a record like this. And so you want to know what you can do with this. Well, highlighted in yellow, it says, can I use it? Yes, free reuse. And it's got a public domain mark. And again, you can click on the link to find out more about the license. We also recommend that you credit our content, and we make this very easy for you. Also, we don't recommend, you should credit our content. This content is brought together by the efforts of those across Europe and created by incredible people. So we want you to credit those creators and the providers. We have made this easy for you in a guide to using Europeana, but we also make it easy because all the content you need to credit the record is on the record page itself. And you can also download all the URLs and the information itself. But we do have a guide to using Europeana in education, and we'll introduce that later. This gives you all the information you need on crediting. And so for those who might be developing resources or have educational platforms, we think our APIs are of particular value. So we have 4 free to access Europeana APIs. They are free to access after a very simple registration process. All we need is your email address, and then you can take your API key and start using this. So I'm not a tech expert, but I'll introduce you quickly to our 4 APIs. If you do need more information, we have and my colleagues are are specialists, and we can absolutely put you in touch with them. All you have to do is email us at the end, or email api@europeana.eu. So first of all, our REST API is the most used. This allows you to filter records by all the available data fields. For example, creator, the date of creation, media type, and size. You can look at the Europeana linked open data service. You can explore our metadata, download our metadata through our Sparkle endpoint. The Europeana OAI PMH service supports users to harvest the entirety of our data or a selection of this. And our annotations API allows users to generate, update, and retrieve annotations for objects in our collections. You can see this in use actually in our own on our own website. We have, for example, a music tagathon, or I don't know, call it tagathon, but we're asking users to tag our music collections with genre. We're trying to crowdsource the information we need to better create better metadata for our music collection. So again, we have documentation online. You can contact us using the API email address. We also have a very active Google forum where you can ask questions, and we have a link to that on our website. You can see that at labs.europeana.eu/API. And so we've talked about our content, and we've talked about tools to access this and to find what you need. And what's really, I think, is really important is that we show you some case studies of where Europeana is being used in the classroom. And so we've selected 3 case studies, and these reflect where we work primarily in partnerships. So we work in 3 different areas primarily. At a policy level, with ministries of culture and education in Europe. We work with commercial educational providers and developers of educational resources. And we work with non-commercial associations and membership bodies who help us to reach communities of educators worldwide. So our first example is Art Stories Faces. Now, this is a really, really fun app. If any of you have kids who like art, this is fantastic. I also really enjoyed this as well. So this is on a theme of art history. This is an example of a commercial partner developing an application using Europeana content. They're also the winner of one of the opportunities we'll talk about later, which is the Europeana Challenge. And they won this last year. So this app allows children between 5 and 10 years, 5 and 10 years old, to discover and learn about art while having fun. It uses 5 portraits from the Europeana collection to give children the opportunity to learn about detail, form, interpretation, color choices, and more. And we're really happy to say that it's going to expand soon to use art as a means of learning about history, geography, and literature. So our content is not just art, history, music, and fashion. Our content can be used in ways of teaching about other contents and again about other subjects, providing that supplementary material for other subject choices. And so this app is particularly successful to date. So it's had 5,000 downloads. It's been featured in a children's club in a newly opened family village in Fuerteventura, of a family village, holiday village in Fuerteventura. And it's been featured on the Apple Store in many different countries and many different categories. So the link is there in case you want to go and explore this. You can also find it on, if you're an Android or Apple user, you can also download this through the store. And so Historiana. Historiana is an educational platform developed as a result of our partnership with EuroClio, the European Association of History Educators. This is an example of one of our non-commercial partnerships and our membership organization. So EuroClio has developed this online educational tool that offers students multi-perspective, cross-border and comparative historical resources that supplement national history textbooks. It features material from Europeana and provides access to our collections via our API, via a special search and select tool. It also has curated content. We've recently collaborated to develop the collections on some of history's most infamous figures, including Stalin, Hitler, Joan of Arc, and Queen Elizabeth. The site makes it very easy to find sources on some of the most important themes for history educators. And these sources may until now have been very challenging to access. Teachers may have had to search for this. There may have been copyright issues, language issues, and having it in one place really provides educators with a really great resource because teachers are not time rich. Teachers have to find content that's relevant for them as quickly as possible. And again, Historiana have also developed a new online learning environment, supporting teachers to use and rearrange building blocks specifically designed for history education purposes. This is just an example of what the platform looks like, but it's a really exciting development. And this has been developed with a provider that works with educational resource educators as well, and it's had input from educators at every step of the way. It really will support educators to make the best use of our digital cultural heritage, the learning potential, regardless of their confidence with digital tools. And so our final example of way we're working in partnership is with the French Ministry of Education. So this is an example of our policy level partnerships. So we're in conversations at the moment about creating a dedicated Europeana space on the French national educational portal, EduTech. Sorry, I do speak a little bit of French, but that just threw me, sorry. EduTech is a portal for primary and secondary school teachers and their students. And it gives them access to thousands of educational resources from major scientific and cultural public institutions. And there's around 28 partners featured on there at the moment. The website will feature suitable learning resources from Europeana, and we hope in this way to really increase the awareness and the usage of Europeana's content by French educators and students. And as you can see, the reach, so this over 100,000 primary teachers and over 800,000 secondary teachers registered. So this is a really great way to get Europeana content into classrooms. So I hope those case studies have shown you ways of Europeana being used in the classroom already. But how do we, as Europeana, support the development of educational resources and support people to take our content and to make new resources and platforms with them, or to embed these in their existing resources? Well, one of the ways, I'll introduce a few ways of how we do this. One of the first ways is something I mentioned earlier, is what we call the Europeana Challenge. And Art Faces, the nice app using art for 5 to 10-year-olds to teach them about art and interpreting art, was a winner of one of these challenges last year. So we have around 2 or 3 challenges per year. These are always themed. And we support sustainable projects that present or enable users to experience Europeana content in innovative ways. We offer between 10,000 and 20,000 euros prizes. This is our sort of average of what we've already awarded. And it generates quite widespread coverage and interest. So we do this to stimulate the development of reuse, of people taking our content and doing something great with this. And we will be launching another challenge from autumn. So please do stay in touch. There might be some opportunities that might be relevant for the work you're doing. And just a note on the themes. When we say themed, it might be a theme relating to our collection. For example, our last theme was on fashion. So this related to the new Europeana fashion collection, and we did this in collaboration with fashion providers from across Europe as well. And so another example of stimulating educational reuse is our we just closed our first match funding challenge. So we're putting into money into creative and cultural partnerships that have educational outcomes. We've invited proposals from cultural heritage institutions and cultural developers, so partnership proposals, to access match funding for a crowdfunding campaign for a digital educational project reusing content accessed in Europeana. The content should use Europeana content. It must be digital, and because of our focus on education this year, we've narrowed our focus to secondary education. So we've asked for projects that are relevant for secondary education, and this could be formal, formal or informal settings. And the winners of this challenge, we've had 19 applicants and we're about to choose the winners. There will be 3 winners. So 3 successful applicants will work with experts to plan and deliver a personalised crowdfunding campaign backed with match funding from Europeana. So again, we're about to announce the winners, so do stay tuned. It should be before the end of this week. And a final example of how we support the development of and the growth of educational resources using Europeana content. Well, in June 2017, this year, we'll be bringing together 10 projects that use Europeana content to what we're calling an investor fora, an investor forum. So the 10 projects we're inviting to this investor forum in June are at both prototype stage and at a more developed stage. And the projects have the opportunity to pitch in front of a panel of between 7 and 10 investors. So taking a really business-minded approach to simulating the growth of resources and platforms and apps that are using Europeana content. And the image on your screen is from our first investor forum at Frankfurt Book Fair in 2016. And this was at the creative conference, the Arts Plus, where students from across Europe developed prototypes and then presented to 5 investors who you can see sitting on the nice white chairs. And so we're nearing the time where I stop talking, thankfully, and get your inputs. But this is where we ask you how can you get involved. Well, I hope, first of all, that you've been intrigued by what we've shown you about Europeana, and that we've convinced you of the value of Europeana's content for education, and hopefully shown you how you can start to use it in education. So all that remains now is for you to get involved. And just to let you know that this group of teachers here took part in a pilot program led by one of our partners, European Schoolnet. So these teachers, we tested on them Europeana's content, and we've learned a lot from how these teachers have started to use Europeana content in education. We've taken their feedback, and they've really helped us to shape our future plans for education, and they're a really great bunch. So get involved with Europeana4Education. So I've said already, education is our priority market in 2017. And we've made a new space on our Europeana professional site. This features partnerships. You'll find out more about our partnership working. You can read case studies like the ones I've just shown you, and you can find the resources you need to use and promote the use of Europeana in education. I'll show you some of those resources shortly. We also invite you strongly to join our LinkedIn group. Now, this is open for everyone interested in using and promoting Europeana for education, as well as the general promotion of cultural heritage, digital cultural heritage in education. And you can find this by going to LinkedIn and searching Europeana for Education. Of course, we use Twitter. We have Europeana for Education as a hashtag, and we use this to support our online identity. And we have our logo, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. So if you're interested in learning from and sharing best practice in the reuse of Europeana's content, there are a lot of ways to get involved. Again, please join our LinkedIn group. I think that's probably the best way. And if you're interested in finding more, we have resources on our website. So you can browse our simple two-pager introducing you to Europeana for Education. It summarizes what we've spoken about today. It talks about the case studies in very concise ways, and tells you a bit more about all of our work. Secondly, we've developed a guide. This is a really recent guide, just developed this month, to support you to use Europeana content in education. Now, this covers searching for our content, educational licenses, and crediting, as well as providing information on our APIs. And this resources could be used by a teacher, it could be used by a pupil. It has it could be used by a developer of educational resources. It has the guidance you need on doing very specific searches, but it also introduces you to what we spoke about earlier, the ways you can browse Europeana. And the final resource I'll bring to your attention is our policy recommendations. And now these present ways for policymakers, cultural heritage institutions, and Europeana to make Europe's digital cultural heritage fit for education and learning. And so this is an area, again, your education is our priority for this year. And it's an area where we're really growing in, and we're really happy to take feedback. And we're very happy if you start using Europeana content in your resources on your platform, in your classrooms. We really want to know, so please do stay in touch. And so now, very happy to take some questions. And I will leave our contact information on the screen. So again, you can find out more on our website. You can join our LinkedIn group, please do. You can follow us on Twitter using Europeana for Education hashtag. And please do get in touch. Schedule a Skype meeting if you want to find out more, or email us if you have any questions, or if you want to be put in touch with our API experts, for example. So what remains to be said is that we hope that we can inspire you to enrich your educational resources and inspire learners to help inspire learners with Europeana's content. Okay, and I'm going to open the chat function. So if anybody has any questions, you can unmute or type in the box. And again, it would be really great to know where you are all coming from. So Igor, thanks very much for starting. Miguel, thanks very nice to meet you as well.
Miguel seems to be having a question, Nicole. Miguel? Yeah, please go ahead and ask the question or type it in the chat window, please.
Oh, sorry.
So, Nicole, while Miguel is typing his question, perhaps you could talk a little bit about the process of adding to the existing Europeana collection. How is this process?
Oh, of growing our collection.
Yes.
So, so I mentioned that we are 10 years old now, around 10 years old. We've grown to such a huge resource. We're the biggest digital cultural heritage library in the world. Our focus now is not actually on growing our content. It's about making sure that the content we have is of the highest possible quality, the highest possible, that it can be used, it's open, and that we, open. So basically high quality and that it can be used. So in this way, we set out what our publishing framework. We have 4 tiers of participation. You can find a lot more about this on our website. But these tiers really define for cultural heritage institutions what they get from giving us their content. So we recommend that if a cultural heritage institution they give us their content with the most open licenses possible, because the more you give, the more you get. So you get to be featured. For example, we can feature your content in data sets. We can make collections of your content. We can promote this via Twitter, via other social media. We can make exhibitions on our platform. So really growing the platform is not our biggest priority. Our priority is on strengthening what we have and making it useful and working with people to start using this as well. So we have recently published our first content strategy. This is also on our website for anyone interested. But we are, of course, still working with interested institutions across Europe to start growing our collection, so growing the quality collection that comes into us as well.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification, Nicole. So now the question from Miguel goes along the similar lines. Miguel is asking, is there any way for us to contribute with our own resources to Europeana?
So perhaps you can clarify resources. So does this mean educational resources, for example, that maybe a lesson plan he's made using Europeana content, or would this be, for example, heritage content? So, Miguel?
Miguel, that's, I think, for you to clarify. But I think it's also asked along those lines of whether individuals, not necessarily organizations, can contribute.
Well, we have trialed this, and we've begun this actually with the World War I collection. We have our Europeana 1914-1918. If you and it's I can actually show you. If you can still see my screen, I can go to this. Okay. Ooh. Okay. So you can see the link here. And so here we have add your story. And so this is where you have, if you have content that relates to the First World War, you can absolutely add your story and add add your own description and add your own metadata to this. And this is not something we do for the rest of our collection, but it is something which has worked incredibly with Europeana 1914-1918. And it's something we are hopefully incorporating into some more of our plans. So there's just some more information here. So you can register, you add information about your contribution, you add a digital image or audio, for example, and you submit the contribution. We then review that, and then it will become visible for others. And interesting, recently I met the Deputy Ambassador of Ireland to the Netherlands, and it turns out she's actually added some of her family's content, a picture of her uncle to this collection because he fought in the First World War, and they had this really nice photograph at home, and they actually wanted to find out more about his squad. He was in the precursor to the RAF. They wanted to know more about basically about what he would have experienced and who his colleagues might have been, because he hadn't been able to find any more information. So they added his image to this collection to try and find out more, which is a really fantastic resource to be able to do. And actually for educators, this is a really fantastic resource. Again, I mentioned earlier, it's the stories which you won't find anywhere else, and you won't find in textbooks, and you won't find on any, not necessarily on a Google search. So it's these untold stories and histories of World War I.
Excellent. Thank you, Nicole. Miguel, does this answer your question, or do you have a supplemental question? And if any other attendees present here have questions, please feel free to ask as well. You can either use the chat window, or you can unmute yourself and ask.
And so I can actually also show you our, if we're talking about educational resources, and on our LinkedIn group, this is our Europeana4Education LinkedIn group. And so we launched this last week. And this is one of our teachers she was in the picture I showed you earlier, of our teachers who we've been talking to about how they can use Europeana in their classrooms. And this is just an example of her recent lesson plan featuring a Czech painter. So now all her pupils know what is Art Nouveau. And then also at the bottom, she's saying, so this lesson just wasn't just about painting. They studied his life. They searched about changing borders. And they also compared traveling today and in the past. And a nice thing that she said, that her pupils are proud of being Czech. So our LinkedIn group is really the place where we hope to start sharing best practice, to sharing those resources. It's going to be a really active community. So I'll be there. I'll be hopefully feeding this with anything we have, which is relevant and inspiring and useful. And this is absolutely somewhere where teachers, educators, developers can come to and start sharing and start learning.
Thank you, Nicole. And Miguel was happy with your answer as well. And perhaps while we're waiting for any others to come with their questions, I just wanted to ask you, thank you for sharing also the case studies earlier during your presentation. But do you also plan to collect any other data, like general data about the users who come to Europeana and who are using or reusing those materials for whatever purposes?
So do you mean Europeana or Europeana, the educational?
Europeana4Education, actually both. Do you have any data
both.
about Europeana in general?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we collect, we've started to be a bit better about collecting information on who's coming to our site and what they're looking for and why. And so we had a survey. We will be publishing the results of this quite soon. And so I can't give any until it's confirmed. But we are tracking this, and we are hoping that our LinkedIn group will help us to understand the type of people who are using our content. But again, we're hoping that we're not just a website. So we're hoping to have a face as well. So you can see my face here. If we go to our education site on, oh, sorry, you can't see it. But anyway, so we have faces. We're very much here. We want people to get in touch and to tell us their stories. And if we can, this is our current website, but our website will be improved we will have a new website by autumn. And on this website, it will be much easier, we hope, for us to feature case studies of what people are doing and what resources they're using and sharing. And again, we hope to be able to collect people's feedback, and we want to welcome people to tell us how they're using our content. We can learn a lot from this. We can learn a lot. Again, we learned a lot from when we brought together 20 teachers in a room from right across Europe. We learned an awful lot. So we want to keep learning, and we want people to tell us how they're using our content. And of course, we'll be doing the standard. We've set some targets in terms of how many people we want to bring to our website, and we'll do also some studies on some small surveys on who's coming to our site. But again, we are hoping to improve the case studies of who's using our content. So you can see this on our websites that are just on the screen in front of you. So our educational portals, digital learning resources, and applications. And so we'll be expanding this on our new website as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nicole.
And so just to say, so this is our where you can find out everything about Europeana. So if you go to pro.europeana.eu, use our data and education. And you can find out our goals, for working in education and about the community, our partnerships, case studies, and the resources, some of which I've just showed you at the end of the presentation there. So these are here. Yeah.
Are there any other questions, either from Ravika, Sally, Terry, or others present at this call? Perhaps while we are waiting, Nicole, you might want to maybe say a few words about the other webinar that is going to be scheduled today at 5 p.m. Central European time.
Yes. Yeah. So this the second webinar is for a different time zone, or for heading for, or we wanted to have two so we can introduce people from different time zones. And this webinar will be similar content led by my colleague Milena. Milena is head of our team, and she's been working for Europeana around 7 years.
Thank you very much. So there do not seem to be any additional questions. Nicole, are there any concluding remarks from your side that you would like to make?
No, I just I can hear. Yeah, so just those are the links. If you want to find out more, please join the LinkedIn group. And if you've enjoyed today, you can tweet about it on using Europeana4Education. And again, please, I'd like to welcome everyone to get in touch if they're interested, and to encourage others to get in touch as well, to share the message that this content is here, it's free to access, and we really want people to use this. We want to inspire learners with our content. So I think that's the last message.
Thank you very much. So I would like to thank to the attendees, and a special thank you to you, Nicole, for your presentation. It was wonderful. And for the present attendees, if you are interested in participating in the second webinar, don't forget it's at 5 p.m. Central European time. And happy Education Week to all again. Thank you for your participation.
And thanks very much, Igor, from all the way in South Africa. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, Nicole. Bye, everyone.